we're going to take a look at combining functions. So the notation that we're going to use, if we're like adding two functions together, it's going to be like f plus g of x. All that's saying is that I'm taking the output of my f function with a certain input and adding the output of the g function with that same input. Now, again, the reason we're going over this crud is because we want to get you comfortable with the idea of, okay, you see this function that you've never seen before, and this piece is something you've seen before, and this piece is something you've seen before, but it's those two things added together. We want to talk a little bit about how these functions behave when you add these bits together, rather than treating this as a brand new thing, okay? So f plus g of x, again, is f of x plus g of x. F minus g of x is f of x minus g of x. Fg of x is just the multiplication version of this, times these two. And then f divided by g of x is the same idea, f of x divided by g of x. So it's these two different functions with the same input, and we're doing an operation on their outputs. Okay, so let's calculate these. That's a large part of what your homework is going to be asking you to do. So let's say, for example, it wanted you to do f plus g of 2. Okay, so f plus g of 2. Every time it asks you to do that, every single time, I want you to rewrite this as f of 2 plus g of 2. Then all you have to do is find f of 2, find g of 2, add them. Don't stress, okay? As long as you know this definition, this should be something that you know how to do. So in this situation, well, they've already given us our f of 2. Our f of 2 is 7. Our g of 2 is 5. So what's 7 plus 5? That's 12. Okay. There's no difficult math here. It's all just figuring out the notation that they're giving us. Okay. We could do f minus g of 2. And that's just f of 2 minus g of 2. And again, they've already given these to us. They say, okay, f of 2 is 7, g of 2 is 5, so subtract those two, you get 2. And we can do the same thing multiplying, we can do the same thing dividing, okay? If anything, the only difficult part here is it's going to be a little tedious because it asks you for all 4. But once you get 1, the other 3 should be super easy, okay? Let's try this again, but we're going to do it with a list of ordered pairs. Okay, so let's say they give you these ordered pairs, and that's our two functions here. And they say, okay, well, can you give me f plus, well, let's do fg of 3. Well, what's fg of 3? Well, that's f of 3 times g of 3. Okay, that's just definition. That's just how we define that expression. Well, what's f of 3? So we go to our f function. We look at where our input is 3. What is the output there? It's 5. So f of 3 is 5. That's the output of the f function when the input is 3. G function, when the input is 3. G function, input is 3, output is 17. So we get 5 times 17. I think that's 85. Okay, if not, you can make fun of me later. Okay, but it's the same concept as before. We just had to look through our ordered pairs to find the value of our function at a given input. Okay. let's say that this is now our two functions. F of x is now defined with an expression, 7x plus 2. G of x is defined as x squared. So let's find f of 7 divided by, it's going to be called f over g of 7, which again should just be f of 7 divided by g of 7. Okay? Now, all that is, f of x is 7x plus 2, so we just need to plug in 7 there. So 7 times 7 plus 2 divided by g of x, so x squared, so 7 squared. So this is going to be 49 plus 2, 51 over 49. Now, the other thing it could ask us to do is it could just ask us for something like f of g of x, or f times g of x. So that's f of x times g of x. So now we're not going to plug anything in for x. We're just going to leave it as a variable. So that's going to be 7x plus 2 times x squared. Your software won't allow you to leave it as that. You got to distribute this x squared. So 7x to the third plus 2x squared. All right. So that is how you could do it if it just left it as a variable. This last one likes to throw some people off. They might also give you a graph to look at. Okay. So here is my f of x, here is my g of x, and they might ask you a question like, hey, what is f plus g of 0? Now, what is the first thing we do? We rewrite this. We rewrite this as, what is f of 0 plus g of 0? Well, how do we find f of 0? Well, we go to our graph. When x is 0, y is 0. So our output here is 0. For our g function, when x is 0, y is 5. So we just do what we were going to do before, where we just find those from our graph by looking for what y equals at a certain x. Okay, so this is combining functions with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division.